and welcome back to the final episode of the Aftershow. We have a lot to talk about because we didn't get to do one last episode, but here we are now. The story is complete. Our heroes have an ending, or at least the beginning of a next. What's up? As my cat
We
screams.
did it, y'all. That's all I gotta say.
The heat metal was foul. Absolutely foul.
Yeah, I
of
have
a play.
I have a list of suggestions for the final fight because oh my god, that was rough. It was crazy.
I think
Yeah,
my
that was
favorite
good.
comment about the final fight was yours, D'Angelo, when you're like, Zelda battle at Dark Souls.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, all
That is
right,
the highest praise ever.
right? It was ridiculous. Oh
So
my God.
here's
Yeah.
the thing: we had planned for the Tastic battle to be a little bit harder, but y'all very quickly figured out don't
Mhm.
focus the ads, focus Tastic, and then a certain someone had to go and heck and crit.
Yeah, so it's your fault that the nightmare fight was
Players
as
gonna
hard
be
as-
players. Yeah.
I had to.
Dude.
Dice are gonna tell a story.
I'm just pleased that it was like Barbarian Bard tag team like SmackDown. I'm still shocked by that. I went into it expecting it to just be another pratfall, but I was like, okay, Willie, you got some game.
But
It's-
Nabi got the final blow.
Yeah,
That was so
that was such an
perfect.
epic
It was so
encounter because
perfect.
like the first half of that fight, Nabi couldn't hit to save her life, and then after
I
that
know.
she was like, and then
Like,
just
I'm
I
here.
was
good.
warming up.
I'm
It was
bringing the
cinematic.
story.
Story
I texted
was-
my friend. I was like, I killed it.
Yep.
No, like story wise, it was perfect. I was like, it couldn't
Yeah.
have gone better.
I thought I was gonna die. I was like, if I have to go out, this is how I'm gonna go out. And then oh
I
my
thought you
God,
were
that's
you were done for. Look, the moment Willie was like, you
Same.
know what? I'm gonna little finger this.
Nightmare
I
did
was-
not like that moonbeam.
Oh yeah,
I know, and I spent like half of my healing in the first couple rounds, and the second half of the second round, I was like, it's all good. We got a Way of the Mercy Monk, and then we got like a bard in here, and then I was like, oh shit, I'm the main healer essentially, and then like, oh my god, it was crazy.
I was waiting for you to try to pull out the deal with Ozone and see how you were gonna take that whole, because you'd been setting it up for so long with like the how can we trust you if he tempts you again.
I thought personally that Ozone was the least likely person to take the deal. Because it had been
And yet-
so set up. Like, Damphy the DM and Vassal the character are not the same. So Vassal did not have trust. Also, Vassal was salty AF. Like, Vassal had been through a lot. Like, in the flashbacks and at the very end, you all got to see a little bit of, like, who Vassal was before she was just... Like, you all went through this. She went through this time and time and time and time and time again. And then she also... Every person she summoned to the Godplane, she, like, in, like, triple speed, lived their entire life up to that moment, like, through their eyes.
Then you'd think she would have had a little more sympathy for him, considering the whole reason Ozone was the way that he was because of the nightmare.
Nah,
When-
bruh.
You
Nah.
know, when, as a person who struggles a lot with not jumping to conclusions and not, like, with trying to force gray into their life, because my snap decision is black and white. Once you dislike something,
You just like it, yeah.
yeah, everything around it cannot be trusted. And it's also very much that is something that's very common among soldiers. My dad was an army vet, so I spent a lot of time among people. Like, that's what you have to do to survive. It is a survival instinct, and Vassal had been through hell and was struggling to survive. So
I
very
also
flawed
remember
characters.
with Vassal that so many people, so many lives lived, so many failures, and almost like endless time. Like, her brain was fractured. She didn't remember things clearly. Like, it was very easy for her to conflate things that happened with one person with another person, and she was losing herself and losing her memory of her own life on top of all of that. So all she had left was the battle.
I honestly thought that the ending was going to go one of two ways. One was that we defeat the the nightmare and all that kind of stuff, and then Vasal ended up being the big bad, and then like going crazy or insane. Or two, Nabi or Willie was actually the big bad in disguise, and then like we had to
What?
throw
I never
hands
do
with her.
things like that. What are you talking about? I never. What are you?
Like I have
You
a question
did
though.
that? Yay.
Or I at least plant things like that. You've been through the
Oh
heist.
boy.
I love it.
I had a question based
That's
off
great.
of the ending and what you kind of hinted at there with Miss Cat, because it left me to wonder: does this mean that Vasal, like, that's just her lot in life? That because I don't know if she's long lived like the rest of us being demigods, but will she always find champions to get rid of the Nightmare God only for it to come back eventually? Is that just the cycle?
So less that Vasal is kind of like she is the champ. So now like Rook is the champion of Maliki. She's the
Maliki, yeah.
champion of the Dreaming God, and is the big bad cop police keeper. Like she's the oh shit button, right?
Okay.
She goes and fixes things, but big oh shit things don't happen all that often. So while she did fight this really horrible, long-lasting thing, that's rare. And like I said, this Mistcat is gaining power. Mistcat is growing its power. It's not a full nightmare yet, and odds are now that the Dreaming God is aware, thanks to Rook, that hey, I have blind sights in this wonderful thing that I made that I love, but that's not necessarily good for everyone. And then there are many reasons that the nightmare came to the power that it has, which I won't go into because if you want to play the module, that will be in there. But this is her lot in life, but it's also a chosen lot in life, and she takes a lot of pride and a lot of, she is a warrior and a protector. And as you saw, like, no, she was not nice at the end, but the reason for that horrible binding tattoo, she was literally going to just throw herself at the nightmare and resist its attacks and keep it locked and distracted as long as she could, in the vague hope that maybe it would be long enough for the Dreaming God to pull enough power to defeat it's themselves, even without champions to fight it, which is threadbare, but that's what she would do.
That clears it up for me. I was wondering.
And Vasal was like with Nabi's sister or like training partner or something like that back in the day?
They're from the same monastery or the same order, but a long time apart.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah.
So when they were bringing champions, they brought them through a space-time thing. So they were briefly in the same space during that test, but they were actually from a long time separated.
Right on. That's awesome.
Yeah, some things
I
I tried to like make clear, but it wasn't always super clear, but also like you don't want to be like lore dump or like here's something really obvious in case a conversation might happen later that would make it more fun. So yeah, the joys of DMing.
I really appreciate that you let Willie kind of echo her last moments with DM by speaking to Effie through the device. I just thought that was really sweet. I don't know. I didn't expect that encounter, much less that person in existence for her to interact with, and it was a lot of fun.
I had actually kind of planned. I thought, I'm sure Willie's going to try to right the wrong, right? I'm sure Willie's going to try to right the wrong. So I'd actually planned for that to be like for you to go back and invent basically the radio and become like this great patron of the arts who like did all these things. But it absolutely makes sense that you would continue to do this as a demigod and just work through people.
I just love the fact that she chose the nightmare device as a model for these radios. So everyone has these like super creep radios in their homes.
Watch like 70 years in the future. It's like because you helped create the radio, the atomic bomb was created. It's like
basically. Everybody just like the goth style is just a station in everyone's
it's like this weird, especially with Effie's style, like it's this weird gothic rococo, like rococo but metal AF, especially as it's like Willie Ozone.
There we go.
God.
So good.
Willie Ozone the God. That kills me. Like The fact that the
That was a
mortals
good
now
scene, yeah.
believe that Willie Ozone is a god.
But yeah,
Now-
and this is just a fun question that I have, because you no longer, like, the story of the Butcher of Bezalel no longer exists, except for in Willie's mind. Does Willie tell that story, or does she let it die? Does she like write this really creepy horror story, or is it?
I think she unconsciously and consciously used Ozum's name for two reasons. That her thought, without even thinking about the fact that the timelines and everything, because she's just has one brain cell, her first thought was like, this guy's big, he's beefy, he's protected me. If any fallout of this happens, he can handle it. But also that
Wow.
yeah, I know, right? But
Just
also
right under
He's
the bus
not a
you go.
demigod anymore.
she
Right.
doesn't think that. But the thing that I like about it is, like, I think in some ways she was thinking, like, I'm the only one left that knows about this horrendous history. And now I'm putting his name to something that's going to better the world. And he's not going to be here like a demigod and like me to see it, but it'll make me happy and it'll remind me of him once he's gone. So I think that was half the reason.
I love how super sweet Willie is, often in the most roundabout ways.
Yeah. Well,
In
what
the
was
most
it that she
slapstick of
said?
ways.
What is it? What did she say? The fat ass heavy?
Yes. Yes.
Ugh. Yeah, a couple of y'all surprised me with your decisions. Like Jen, especially after some of our early talks, I expected Willie to really Willie. Sorry, y'all. I am mixing up character names tonight. Apparently, I expected Nabi to lead more into friendships and be like, "No, people
See,
are important."
I did too, and I
didn't. I was so
Two?
totally expecting that. Like because Nabi throughout the campaign was very cagey and very like, now you guys it's the one character we know the least about, and I think that's because she's awkward and doesn't really talk about herself. I did not expect to learn more about Ozum before Nabi. Like I expected to know way more about Nabi than we did before we even got to Ozum. So it was shocking for me, and I like that.
Aw,
I
I thought she was like, because the way she was going, but I think because throughout the whole thing, she just never really felt like being mortal. Like when she was presented with the choice, she was pretty much like exactly like she said, like, I've already made it through without turning into Tazik. There's no guarantee that if I do this again, I won't turn into Tazik. And that's not a future that she wants her name attached to at all. So I think she would have, in her naive before, taken that decision because she's like, oh yeah, I can totally handle whatever the fuck. But now she's like, oh no, I cannot handle it that way. No, thank you. But so it wasn't necessarily that she was choosing the knowledge over being mortal. She was choosing the fact that she made it through. Yeah. And like was good. And
I like the fact that both Nabi and Willie kind of chose their choices for similar reasons. Like, I want to safeguard this and not have it happen again. So I'm going to take this route.
Yeah.
Which shocks me that they weren't more like super bros, seeing how similar they are in a lot of things.
It's interesting how polar opposite they are in their like actions and how they actually follow through with the decision making. But you're right, the decisions come from the same kind of core place.
I feel like they became super bros as demigods, though.
I mean,
yeah, for
like,
sure.
Like those two.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that as demigods, watching their friends live their lives, grow old, and pass on, I think really connected them, because it's like, now it's just the two of us, and we're keeping Rook and Ozum's legacies alive in our own unique ways.
Unique is for sure the way. So you're keeping us alive.
Oh, that boy love stock.
Yeah. But
You
we're
guys were
sharing the
the-
wealth. We're not being greedy. So I mean,
You write the fanfic for everyone to read. You spread it upon every single planet you come across. Like,
you've got some shares there, Ozone,
Doing
so
iOS
you're gonna
work.
make a pretty bank.
who's gonna get the bank though? Ozum has no heirs.
Not to be a complete like a sappy sack, but I was like really hoping Ozone was going to have children because I know that Willie would have loved to have been in their lives.
It could have been like a situation where he didn't have any biological children, but
He
there was
could have
some
adopted
like, other
kids.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, other
I feel
neighborhood
like
kids he
I
raised,
even
helped
see-
raise.
I see like Ozum like taking on like seeing like late teens, early 20s who are like troubled or like have been really trampled down on and just like tough love
Yeah.
at first, and then it becomes like I see
Yeah,
that.
for sure. I think it probably would have been something that he and Lyra did way like later on in their lives, probably maybe 15 or so years after, like once he's kind of had more time
Yeah,
to process, and once they felt like they were more in a position where they didn't have to move around as quickly and they didn't feel like there were people always on their tail. And then he definitely would have, you know.
I feel like that would have happened sooner
we
than
need
it
an
would
old
have
man
naturally
Ozone
because he's
series.
got two guardian angels watching over him.
I was waiting
Maybe.
for Kay to mention when like Sophie was describing where Ozone was in life. I was waiting for Kay to say, yeah, and he's an old man, because I really wanted to see that.
That would have
mean,
been sad.
It's
if
your
we, like,
conclusions. Like
That's true. But I got the impression that it sounded like we were meeting up with him maybe only a handful of years after everything that's happened.
I mean,
So
I
he was
said
still
for
young
some
and
of you it's
spry.
decades.
I almost,
so even
I almost
decades
expect,
to immortal.
I almost expected us to meet over at Ozum's grave, like to just have like
Oh.
a picnic, you know, and just like the feels of being like, we miss you, man, and then just like,
What
Oh, my
kind of
heart.
Fuck
sadistic
you.
DM would I be if I said you're gonna have a picnic on the grave of your mortal teammate?
We wouldn't put it past you.
No.
We would not put it past
hey,
you.
Day of the Dead, you know, it's not all that bad. It's just
Oh
okay.
my god.
You heat metaled rings in Ozum's chest, okay?
I did
I'm
not.
No
gonna-
trust.
I followed instruction.
I'm just saying.
David, fuck you.
It's not out of the realm of possibility, is all I'm saying.
Also, I mean, horror game. That's also just
I
like
mean, that's really
I
what we were
think
waiting
that
for.
passes the line of horror and into just like emotional
Cruel.
dickbaggery. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he got to live his whole life, you know, that he wanted to, you know, with right next to.
Is it a fair trade?
I know you guys were saying like, okay, who's gonna cry during this last episode? Who's gonna get emotional?
I knew it was going to be me. I
I'm
knew I
gonna
was
confess, if it hadn't have been for that whole internet outage,
You would
Y'all-
have been fucked.
no, you all almost had me at Lyra basically saying the same things that he remembered, like, you know, if you really want to commit suicide, go over there. And he like the way you, I don't know if that was you or the character, but the way you responded with your voice cracking and going like, it's kind of messed up, tell someone how to kill themselves. I was like, I can't. It was too
You'll
much.
never know. Was I on the verge of tears or was it awesome? You'll never know. I'll never tell.
Goodness.
The answer was yes.
Um,
It's like,
Yeah.
To
Almost got
what?
me, man.
To which one? Well, okay,
Just yes.
so I guess now is the time, the good segue into why the burden never got lighter for him before he chose to be immortal again. And what you would have seen had we actually had to fight that one thing in the graveyard.
Speaker.
The gallows speaker, if Ozum had been touched by the gallows speaker, the memory that you all would have shared with him would have been the memory of Lyra's death, because he himself doesn't know if he was the one who killed her or not.
Oh, dang.
He is almost positive that he's the one who did it.
That puts that whole scene where he
Yeah,
strangles
exactly.
her in the bedroom into complete, that hit different.
mhm.
Yep,
Hmm.
that's been,
That's why she
That-
cursed my name.
yep.
Oh, dang. I'm surprised that he did it. I mean, considering that weight.
He knew it wasn't her.
I don't know, man. If I knew that somebody in front of me was not my loved one, but they spoke, smelled, and looked the same, I don't know if I would have it in me.
He is a torturer. You want to know why he doesn't have a tail? Because they cut it off of him when he was a kid and learning to go through every type of pain imaginable and sit through it and not
That's
make
some
a
real
sound.
Goku energy.
They cut his tail off. He has so many scars all over him, not just on his palm, because of so many things that they did to him. Like, he's resistant to poison because he had to develop a tolerance. He has been through so much, and not being sure whether or not he was the one who ended up killing the one person that he's ever loved and who had ever shown him love. I mean, yeah.
It's heavy. Also, complete side note, but a rook going, oh, he's just stabbing his hand. You guys can ignore that for now.
It's like,
Just like-
look away.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right?
I was like,
D'Angelo, I know you have to go soon. Is there any questions or comments or anything you had before you go? And...
words.
Really quick, I'll ask both David and Kay, what was both your peak and your pit of this campaign?
Yeah.
So I think I've said this before. My very first, like the thing that I pitched at David, I'm like, David, they want to do horror. I want them to be in a field full of zombies, and there's too many to get through. And there are these weird spider bug things spinning webs, and they have to wrap themselves in the webs. But every time, like every action, they have to roll a d4 for piercing damage, and if they roll a 1, the bug burrows. And so seeing that just like come to life there was like God, what was...
Give us the pit.
But also,
think
like,
I know.
the ending, I think I said, too, I've been writing the ending of this, like, since the beginning, and then adjusting things, like, as I went. Like, literally, David's like, what do you need? I'm like, I got it. And I, like, told him, and he's like, okay, write it down. And then I wrote it down, and I'm like, destroy it. And he's like, I changed some spelling and some punctuation. I ain't touched nothing else. I don't know that I had a pit. I think my pit was the panic when, like, it kept being like, I'm going to miss the second to last episode. I'm going to miss the second to last episode because we had a couple scheduled. And I'm like, I can't. And I don't want to say, like, we're doing the big boss in the second to last. I'm like, you can't miss the second to last. That's the big boss. But we worked it out. And that's just, scheduling is always the first boss of D&D. David, what do you got?
My saltiest point was when someone who will remain nameless managed to skip an entire combat encounter that we designed, and I'm never gonna let that go because the design of it was so cool.
Specifically designed it for that character to shine.
It do be like that sometimes.
It do. The joys of DMing.
But like there are so many like good things and high points that it's impossible to like pick one. Part of it is seeing you guys move through Kay's playground and reacting to things that we built is definitely one of the best things. And seeing here everybody at the end as well, but also like little things like waking up at 4 a.m. and Kay has woken up, written a bunch of things, gone back to sleep, not remembered that she wrote them to me, and I'm immediately like, "Are you okay? Like, are you good? Because this is more than dark." And just working with her and every aspect of it, where she'll be like, "Okay, I have this idea," and I'm like, "But what if?" And then she'll be like, "Okay, that's mean, but what if we did this thing that was really mean?" And then watching it build higher and higher. Oh, no. The one thing, my low point is I wrote a bunch of lore for the Tastic of the library, and we use the characters from our D&D session as the heroes that Tastic did the puppeteering with. And y'all read all of, like, you guys stopped one before the one book of lore that talks specifically about the characters, and everybody who's in that campaign was watching that stream. I was like, sweet, they're gonna be about, oh no, and then they missed it, and I was just like, oh, you were one away. But besides that, everything was
I'm sorry.
I thought you were gonna say the spider.
no, I mean, like, listen, some of the, we cut out
We
a
have- we
lot
have a-
of
we have
like
a lot
really
of-
uncomfortable things. Like there were times where she and I were working on something, and I was like, and then I had to like get up and like take a lap and like go pet a dog and touch grass and then come back.
Man, I have morbid curiosity now.
So many just like really unsettling things that
Can we
made
replay
sure-
the game in nightmare mode and then just like
Dark Souls
Ozone has the
mode.
I'm
dream
down for
every
nightmare
night.
mode.
Apparently, I'm good at writing horror.
Just
I
a
wanted
little
Ozone
bit.
to have had the dream more because I feel like it didn't. I never actually got to attack anyone.
That's also
Not this
part of
time.
why we were like, let's make some of this stuff a lot more obvious. Because, you know, we knew this was the way this campaign is set up. You know, there weren't going to be, like, it's short, so we weren't going to have it be, you know, oh, we're long resting every da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, also why Ozone straight up strangled Lyra. I never told you what his dream is.
Sure.
The dream. So I came up with this mechanic with Kay, where Ozone, his PTSD of everything manifests itself in a dream where it's basically like a sleep paralysis demon. Bye, D'Angelo.
One sec. Can you hold on just 1 second? I'm almost done.
what?
What?
I'm adjusting the layout again.
Oh,
But continue.
okay. He feels like he's suffocating in the dream, and when his eyes are finally able to open, like he can.
Okay, you're good, D.
He sees her, he hears her, he can almost smell her, and she's suffocating him. And he's begging her to please not do this to me. And so instead of, you know, him torturing someone, she's torturing him. And
Yeah, that's a twist on the. Yeah.
I'll post like the little write up of what the experience is for him because it tells a little bit more. But yeah, it's
I
He's
definitely
used to...
wonder how differently things would have played out in that bedroom if the roles had been reversed and she was the one inflicting the damage.
That would have been interesting. Oh, okay, you should have had her strangling him.
Yeah.
And you and then everyone else is watching from the doorway as
Yep.
Ozone is like fucking gasping for air.
I was actually I had written all these and was trying to figure out, you know, I'm sad D isn't here because I really liked his scene with Azucena.
Yeah.
But I was worried. I'm like, oh no, are him and Ozone too similar? And I'm like, well, hopefully, you know, I've set them up so they'll probably be spaced out. And they went back to back, and I was like, oh no, are they going to be too similar?
You know what I like about this team though? Like when you said that these are going to be characters that weren't altogether good and they had to find a redemption through this journey, maybe it was just my narrow-mindedness, but I really thought like you know, they're all bad guys. Like, how varied can it be? But they all really came from different walks of life and different varying degrees of selfishness and sorrow. And it was just great to see, despite how different it was, how just they became kindred spirits at the end of it. It was nice for them to just early on, I didn't expect them to have their little like kumbaya session where they're like, so hi, my name is Nabby and this is my issue. You know,
I really enjoy, like, and I totally
Yeah.
understand the desire to play, you know, these idealized heroes, and that's great, but I really enjoy campaigns with flawed characters where you can
I
really
love
kind of
flaws.
dig in and yeah, and then we had like, I really did enjoy too, like I kind of sat down and was looking at each of these characters, right? And I'm like, what is their big thing? And it was interesting because at least on paper, right, things play out differently, but both the way I was seeing it and the way I played it, the weaknesses of both Willie and Rook were cowardice. And yet their experiences were so very different. So that's why when people talk about, are these characters driven, are these characters are so different. It all depends on how you play them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I was sitting here worried that Nabby and Willie's affinity for literature and like novel writing and stuff like that was going to be too similar, but it went in completely different directions, which I thought was really great.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it was Nabi and Rook who ended up bonding over boy love.
Oh
so
my
who knew?
gosh. Yeah. Oh, this is so good.
Love it.
I have to say, I was shocked in the best way at the end that it was Ozone that Willie reached out to for all of her stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense, but I expected it to be Rook.
I was this close because I was doing the one rule that because this is my first time playing D&D in a stream, and I, like a nerd, went and watched like YouTube videos going like,
I
what
love
you
you so
prepare
much.
for, and blah blah blah, because I didn't want to be like a dead weight. I was like, I
You
want to
were.
make this good
Can
for
we all?
Kay.
Can we all just say
Oh
this
my
God.
was one of her first times playing
Stop.
D&D, and was she not amazing?
You were
Amazing.
incredible.
Stop it some more. But I digress. The thing is, that
For
one rule
real.
that stood out to me was that they said, while it is not your turn, pay attention, but start planning your stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And that's something that I've tried to do throughout. And while we were listening to just the setup, my first thought was thinking like, all right, what is Willie going to choose? What is she going to do? And for the duration of you narrating, I was like, okay, she's going to call Rook over because they had that connection after everything was over. But when it came to really thinking about the character and her dealing with loss and the heaviness of that, like, I was like, of course she's going to think about what Ozone said and shared with the group. And that's who she would reach out to.
It was perfectly in character. Like, it was made such sense and closed
Yeah,
a beautiful
for sure.
loop.
Also talking about like players. One of the things that we were talking about over the summer when we were working on this is who are we going to get to play? And Kay went, okay, well, let me think about it. And like 2 days went by and she's like, okay, I think I got some people that I want to play this. And I was like, okay, who? And then she's like, there's this person and this person. And I was like, I don't know any of these motherfuckers. Like, it's fine. And before
So wait,
that,
you didn't know any of us?
Nope.
Oh.
And before that, we talked a lot about like the important things that these people had to have. And it was like, okay, they have to interact well with the group. They have to be thoughtful and patient and considerate of others, but also like really charismatic and really engaging. At no point did we discuss level of D&D experience, like how big your platform was, anything like that. It's like we get people in a room together so that they could have a good time. And Kay was like, all right, I dug up a bunch of people. And I was like, well, Kay knows what she's doing. And then she just picked a perfect crew to run this particular campaign for. And as we were working on the episodes during the week, it actually created a lot more work for us because you guys interacted so well together that we had to shift things and say, okay, this person's going to interact with this, but then this other person is going to be a part of that because of these connections that both the players and the characters have formed. And that has been a very interesting evolution of the module as a whole. And we also talked about how the written module that's going to get published is going to be so dramatically different and feel so much thinner because of all the stuff that we added specifically for characters.
But also, like,
Yes,
there's
true.
some really cool things that, like, my initial, because this was originally like a short story and then a screenplay attempt, and then it finally became this. And like I knew I wanted to do kind of archetypes, even if I wasn't giving you all the archetypes. I kind of knew what things would be, and like one of them was a war hero who went out and did, went to war for his god, did, won all these battles, killed all these people, spread the glory of the god across the continent, da 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 da. And then comes to the Godplane thinking he's some great hero, finds out he's at the bottom of the pack, and realizes it's because he basically led the Crusades. Like, that world's version of the Crusades. And that was actually only a small step over to Ozone's story, right? Like, the very bare bones of it. So there were several archetypes that I was able to adapt pretty well, and hopefully any DM who's interested or any storyteller who wants to do something like this could be like, okay, yeah, here's a couple, and then I can adapt them. What about, I'm sad Dee's gone. What about you all? Did you have highlights, lowlights? Like, what was your favorite moment? What was the worst moment for you, your character?
This must have been the worst moment for everybody else, but it had me so excited when Willie grabbed that teddy bear and pulled the pin out of it. It was my favorite part.
So that's a very slight adaptation of a character straight out of Ravenloft. Of a monster straight out of Ravenloft. And I actually took surprisingly few things. Do I really not have Ravenloft right here?
If you had soul swapped with that fucking teddy bear.
I was fingers crossed hoping that would happen.
The thing is like I don't think it was established at all in character or out of character, but like out of character, I was so ready to die. I was like excited to die. I was just like, I don't know. Maybe
she messaged me before this when she's like, by the way, you can kill Willie. It's totally cool.
Yeah.
You can kill Willie. It's totally cool. I love that.
I had a death wish apparently, and it wasn't even like heroic or anything. I was just like, this is like a chick who is completely out of her element, and she is learning on the job. I was all like, fatalities are almost inevitable. Like, it'll be a miracle if she makes it out the other side solely based off of her party. And like, I don't know, when I was doing my study session looking at D&D, I was looking at a lot of Critical Role, and the one thing that really stood out to me, which I'm butchering all the names because I don't recognize anybody, was the guy from Critical Role with the purple hair who's I think
Taliesin.
Tiefling with basically
Mollymauk.
died.
Yeah,
And
I watched
that with like an open mouth and went like, that is so impactful. That is really amazing. Hope I get killed.
Right.
Hey, how many of us messaged you saying it's okay to kill us?
Yeah.
Because I did the same thing, so I'm curious if Navi or Rook also said kill me if you need to.
Rook, especially when there were some scheduling conflicts. He's like, if you need to kill Rook, that's totally cool. And I'm like, look, like, I'm not like, and the way I approach DMing is if you can't make a schedule, I'm not going to kill you. Like, that's not, we are adults with lives, right? I respect you, you respect me. I'm not going to kill you unless if you come to me and say like, I want my character to die in a blaze of glory, absolutely I will write that in, right? I know people who are like, I'm leaving the campaign, kill me or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think you handled it really well. I loved how Rook kept getting sucked in and out of the mist. I thought it was very in universe, and I was like, did they plan this? This is pretty good.
That absolutely came out of I didn't know exactly how dedicated Rook was going to be because I knew he was a paladin Maliki and he talked a lot about Maliki, but like once I saw in him play the character, I'm like, oh, there is a real connection to Maliki here. And that was adapted throughout the course of the thing of like it becoming a fight between Maliki and Iwen over this character. Whose champion should he be?
I really loved that conversation between him and what was it, Iwen?
Yeah.
It was just really cute to see like this petulance, like, you're mine though. I love that.
And so I tried to say it at a couple points, and I'm not sure how clear it was, but the Dreaming God was all of the gods in this outside of Maliki. Maliki was actually from the Forgotten Realms that Rook made a connection to. But yeah, the many-faced god, Iwen's a child playing dress-up, and it's boring to be the same god all the time. So they put on all sorts of different outfit, and always that's why, like with your god, there was the creator and the destroyer, and they were seen as brothers, but they were actually, it's the same person. It's just, haha, it's a damn this brother, haha, it's a damn that brother. Nabi, you worshipped the two-faced god because it's literally a god with two face. So yeah, I was trying to seed that and make it clear. Never sure how clear things get because they're very clear to me because it came out of my head.
But still, after the fact, that is cool. I don't even. Oh, that's neat. I'm into that.
When it comes to character death, that's also something that Kay and I have spent a lot of time talking about. And one of the things that we both agreed upon is that while we want a heroic story and we are rooting for you to succeed, there has to be a chance of failure. There
If you
has to
fuck
be a
around, you
chance.
will find out.
Right.
No
And
lie,
so,
I thought Ozone was gonna bite it. I was waiting for it.
and so
I wanted
at
it to happen.
all of the big combat encounters, including ones where there was an insistence that you walk away from it. She and I like worked and was like, okay, so how tough is this fight? Like, is this the sort of fight that can get them killed? And so like the creepy doll where if you soul swapped and then killed the doll, then that person is dead. And not just we wanted to make sure that if a player or the party died, it would be the player or the party's fault.
Yeah.
But we also wanted to make sure that there were things in it where it's like, oh no, we can actually lose. We have to use our brains. We have to know when to run away. We have to use all of the tools that are available to us, because if we don't do that, we won't make it.
But we were also over here going, please don't die. We don't want to have to like
Right.
re-figure out this balance for 3 people instead of 4.
Oh, it worked out so well.
Anyone
I
else?
like it.
Any other questions? Any other whatever? We've been chatting for a while about it. Y'all were amazing. Amazing. It was
you were
such
You
a
were
good
amazing.
story.
You were amazing.
Stop.
You guys were
It is
so
incredible.
good. Just it through all like the technical issues and just getting us together and scheduling and giving us pings of like, all right, this is what's going on. Here's handy links. I've never felt more pampered. And if I'm spoiled for any future like streaming in D&D if I get into this, I'm just saying.
And
So
Sure.
one thing I want to point out is Kay and I could sit and write and gossip and talk about whatever for as long as we want. It is you guys that make this happen. Like,
Mhm.
you guys are the ones who make this possible and who made the show what it is. Because if we had just gotten 4 schlubs, it would have been dry, boring, and Kay and I would have hated ourselves the entire time. And both Kay and I agree that our storytelling really needs to be character focused, and that it's the characters that matter most.
Mhm.
And so if it wasn't for the characters that you brought, then this wouldn't have been as good as it is.
And that's part of why, like, Sophie, when you gave me so many opportunities, I kept poking it because, like, especially with a shorter campaign, right? That's why I asked for characters who already had regrets and who already had flaws, right? Because that's easier to get, like, oh, you're the underdog. Oh, I'm on your side. Oh, I see where you're flawed. Oh, now I'm really on your side and I want you to have a happy ending. And, you know, everyone complains about, you know, Critical Role creating unrealistic expectations of DMs, but really people should be focusing on, like, how am I as a player? Am I taking notes like they do? Am I pulling together connections like Marisha does, right? Like, am I really getting invested in these stories? And without players who do that, you're not going to have an amazing show. So we got to do something really magical here, and it is in huge part because you all were so committed and so good at your characters and so creative, and didn't just sit there and say that's not fair when I threw something mean at you. Like, you actually
People say that?
Throw it harder.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Actually,
It's
I'm
like
gonna
jump and we're like, how high?
I'm a retcon what I said before. It was like the peak, but then also like when my stomach like dropped of like responsibility was after the session with Ozone and Rook's challenge. When with that whole test in the house. And I like had a moment of like, this got really dark. This got really, like, this was a lot. And I like ended the session and I'm like, is everyone okay? Because I was watching for any sign on faces, and every single one of you was like, this is what we signed up for.
Yeah.
You can go harder. And I'm like, No, I
Harder,
really
Griffin,
like
Kay.
everyone. Like
Harder.
David keeps going like, "Kay, you write really like all of this is really messed up. Like all of this is really scary and horrifying and really messed up." And I'm like, I can't go harder than that. Me as a DM, me as a person, that is as hard as I go.
And
Apparently,
the viewers. And
Yeah.
the viewers too.
yeah. Like
Because I could have kept.
you
I
absolutely
could have made that
could've.
scene so much worse.
Oh
I
boy.
know.
But I'm glad that you cut it off and were
If it-
like,
If like you and I in a room, we could have gone longer, but me as a DM going like other people in the room, other people on stream, I need to speed this up, and like watching
You
it
were
back,
a good referee.
even
Yeah.
that was like, ooh, I maybe could have done that a little less. I'm glad I didn't, but I maybe could have done that a little less. That was just a moment of, and let me say very clearly for anyone watching, you don't have to go to that level in your game for it to be scary. You don't have to do that level. But when you realize that you've gone further than you thought you could, and your party is totally still down for it, it's like, oh, I've got a crew and I have a responsibility. Like, wow.
this person is okay with strangling their wife on stream. Didn't expect that.
And we just went there. Thanks, folks.
The
Yeah,
trigger
yeah, we
warnings
don't-
finally kick in.
Right. We don't kink shame here.
I think yeah, I feel like those little moments were definitely the ones where the trigger warnings felt way more necessary.
Yeah.
Like I feel like as a whole there were definitely things that might have been able to be pushed further, but I'm also content with where we were. But
Yeah.
it's also like we didn't give ourselves a lot of opportunity for that. Like we did the potions, but that's up to a roll. Like so
Right.
one person, unlucky person, had a bad roll and got the bug legs, and we're like, oh, that's creepy.
So you know, the bug legs
freaking-
could have happened with any water check also. That was part of it's the same roll
Oh.
table for potions and for water.
And freaking
Like
Willie
that.
drank and ate everything. Like,
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, Willie
That's
got
utter
more advantage from that.
That's
Like
true.
most of the eating and drinking was actually like to your advantage.
And Willie needed that, so
That's true. That's true.
I do find it funny that I think Ozim ended as the most stable person in the group, even though going into it, he was absolutely the most unstable person
Yeah.
in the group. Like, funny.
I did
He's
not.
like, it's every day for me. Like, I'm fine.
I did not expect like both of the men to just be like, no, mortal life is what works for me. I really didn't expect that. I honestly thought that it was going to be all of them that were going to be like, yeah, let's just do this demigod life. This is all about it. We just got rid of a big bad.
Yep.
Should anything else pop up? We're demigods. We can handle it.
Demigod cat.
Willie definitely felt the most surprising to have not
Dave-
picked.
David
Immortal
will
Life.
confirm. I had like, okay, here's like bullet point options of what can happen with Willie. Here's bullet point options of what can happen with Nabi. Here's bullet point options of what can happen with. Here's what's going to happen with Ozim.
Absolutely.
Like, you knew.
And I read it and I was like, yep, we're done here.
No, but what if I had said no? What if I had
Oh,
stayed the course?
in the back of my mind, like I had some ideas of like what would happen, like, and especially once you reached out to Vassal, like,
Did you know I
Yeah.
was going to do that?
no, it was great. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I had already
I was about to be
planned.
like, how well do you know me?
No, I mean, I had planned for Vassal to show up and talk to Nabi because I actually expected that friendship, maybe even romance, to happen there. Wasn't sure. So I had that prepared, right? And so it was like easy, but it was funny when you reached out to Miss Cat, and I'm like, Miss Cat ain't forgiving you.
Yeah.
I think it is just that moment of desperation and
Yeah.
needing someone to talk to because he's never had to make
Mm.
like he's made decisions before, but normally under someone's command, and there was no one telling him
Yep.
which decision to make, and that is almost paralyzing for him. Where it's something.
Can I just say, like, while it was happening and while Sophie was playing it out, I was in our chat going, oh, I'm worried that he's going to be hated by Vassal again. Just my heart.
More just like, would she be disappointed that he's leaving
But the
because
thing
he's
is-
helping her? And
But what got to me, what gave me the feels was the fact that all I could think of the moment like I saw your face and heard those words was like the first episode where he meets Vassal and he's like, I don't care. I don't give a crap about you. I'm gonna do what I want. My axe is bigger. I could care less. And at the end of it, he's just like, are are you gonna hate me again? I was just like, character arc. Oh, I love it.
Right?
Y'all had such good character arcs.
Because
And
her ex was bigger. Her ex was bigger. That's what happened.
You should have said that at the end, like, I really did care that your ex was bigger.
well,
I almost said like the only thing that changes about Ozone is that his axe is as big as Basal. But I wanted to give the nod to Lyra instead, that because he didn't know if he he knew that he wasn't going to see her again in that moment, that there was no going back to her. So why not have a part of him remind him of her even more?
Also, I just want confirmation that Willie went back, met up with Bird Person, and was like, all right,
Please.
let's do this.
yes, absolutely.
Bird boyfriend.
Frickin' yes.
She's like, so much regret.
Yeah.
I don't.
really
I'd have
should've
to
said
consult
more.
my notes of where that bird came from. But yes, you find it. You get your Howl's Moving Castle Bird Boy romance.
Let's do it.
It's great.
I'm jealous. As someone with
Freaking
3 Howl's Moving
demigod
Castle
girlfriend.
tattoos.
I got
Well-
a demigod girlfriend, no big deal.
Right? My girlfriend who lives-
Feather flip.
Feather flip.
I love it.
Let me tell you all about my demigod girlfriend.
Right? Right?
And you're small enough that he totally could have just flown you everywhere too.
Oh!
My heart. It kills me. It kills me. I was literally trying, like, kicking myself under the table going, Willie, why are you taking advantage of this moment?
Why did we go down
he was
the boy
fluffing
love?
his feathers for you and everything.
Why did we go down the boy love path when this was right here the whole time?
know.
Boy love, bird love. Boy love,
The
bird love.
player was just like, just go for it. The character was like, nah, man. But I was like, ah.
Well,
Yep.
thank you for putting your characters through hell with me. I hope I
Yeah.
made it a worthy journey and gave them a send-off that you all will appreciate, because saying goodbye to characters is very hard.
But I'm not
Yeah.
saying goodbye to Ozone because you
You're
know
not.
that I'm playing him again in any campaign that you come up with. And he'll be happier in that one. Thank you.
I'm really curious, like, when it comes to all of you, just from a player perspective, do you find it, I don't want to say easier or harder, but like, do you get such an affinity with a character that you use them everywhere, or do you like the excitement of using something new everywhere?
This
Sure.
was only my 4th time playing D&D. So
Wow.
For-
But all 4 times it's been Ozone?
Mhm.
Oh,
It
okay.
depends on the situation for me. Like, if you're a new player and you want to really get to know, like, your character and you want to get to know what this person will do, then playing them over and over again is a good idea. And it doesn't have to be the same job or class or anything like that. But, or, like, it's really up to you. If you want to be, like, it's kind of like streaming. If you want to be, like, a variety streamer, then you can just, like, dabble in a little bit here and
I
there.
like the attitude head waggle. Do you want to be a variety?
It's very Faye
streamer?
Valentine. It is shockingly Faye Valentine.
I didn't mean
You
to call
know.
you out like that. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But or if you like, I have 3 characters I alternate between, or like they're like a similar archetype, but like they're 3 different aspects of that same archetype. So I kind of stick within that realm.
Okay.
yeah,
That's how
and
I do it.
Ozone has a human counterpart named Bastion. So if I need a human, so like in the Vampire the Masquerade campaign, it's gonna be Ozone human, which is almost just like a vampire version, but I don't want it to be Bastion just yet, because Bastion, I'm working on a whole story with
Yeah.
Bastion and his
Bastion's got his own
lady.
universe.
Yeah, Bastion is in a very strange place.
Well,
But so Ozone has been my character. If you saw me talking in chat, I've been playing a variation of Ozone in every RPG game that I play, starting with Dragon Age Inquisition, because that I really got into video games kind of in my junior year of college. And so my big old Canary boy in Dragon Age Inquisition kicked off that whole thing. And then if I can't do a thing with horns, then it'll be an elf, like a super tall elf. So for Final Fantasy 14, that's what he is. And then
I thought you were gonna use the dragony race in Final Fantasy. I don't know what they're called.
they're not as tall.
Oh my gosh.
But the Elizin are a little too slight, so I could switch them over to the big.
The Galkas? They're not Galkas anymore. What are they called now?
I don't remember. I should just make him a Lalafell and make him a little
Rogadine.
tater tot.
Rogadine.
I should just
Yeah,
make him a
Lalafell,
tater tot.
Listen,
Okay,
I rock
I
a
play
tater tot,
11.
okay?
Yes, he
Oh
does.
wait, I can do
Why?
the.
So do
I can
I.
do the. Can't you be the cat rabbit boys now?
Yes, you can.
Not-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tasty.
Uh,
They're cute.
David will tell you, like Cozy, I come from a writing background. I have characters running all around in my head, running
I don't know
amok.
how you keep them straight.
Part of the reason I'm so excited to be working on like my bigger long-term campaign is that I can just stick all these characters as NPCs who will be like important and
Yeah.
maybe join you for quests because like I definitely have some older ones that get reskinned. The problem is sometimes they get so distinct that they split. So like Kinley, who I play in one, actually came out of a Nathaniel Hawthorne book, which is one of my favorites. And then he became came out of there, became Damien. Damien split and kind of merged with another version of Bright, and so those two were kind of one and the same except not. And then Kinley, and then became a different kind of Like he's been through several incarnations, but is now distinct. Bright and Damien split and are now a distinct thing over here. When I worked at, you'll appreciate this, Cozy. You remember Adenyth, the little angel that I drew a lot when I worked at DeviantArt?
Yes.
So I'm actually playing an updated like a D&D version of Adenyth, who is a plant genasi in a
God, the plant
Ravnica.
genasi.
Yeah, the plant genasi is amazing.
Woof.
Logan's coming back.
They are a lot because
God.
they
Yes, so much.
have been dormant for 2,000 years and also do not communicate with facial expressions. Naturally.
Oh.
So yeah, like I have a lot of characters. A lot of them, like I know, most of my characters, and I realized I do this like a couple of my favorite people also, but a lot of my characters are created to answer questions. So like this campaign actually came out of. For anyone wondering, the big influences for this campaign are Link's Awakening and the Woodkid music video for Iron.
Ooh,
those
good
are like
call.
the two. There's a bunch of other stuff. Also, I told this to Jen. David Boy's Black Star was a really, really big one. In fact, one of the planes you didn't get to encounter was in the Villa of Armand. The Villa of Armand is there. There's a solitary candle at the middle of an abandoned
I'm
village.
sorry, and we didn't go.
You didn't get there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But so this was like asking a question of like, would you risk your life? Would you risk your life, go through hell to save people, knowing that you couldn't change your own past, right? Knowing that there was no redemption for you. Would you still do this? Go through something terrible. That's the backbone of this campaign for me. And like Roxy, who's my Paladin Flying Spaghetti Monster, was like, what's it like to be the only person who believes in something? And in D&D that's difficult because gods die all the time. So a dead god isn't a big deal. So you had to be the first, couldn't even be the first believer because gods are born. So you had to be the believer in the god that everyone knew was a joke. And David will confirm, like, while I throw out stuff like, we come from the Olive Garden of Eden, right? Like,
Oh, devastating.
Yeah,
Every last one of them fucking
I
devastating.
throw out these things, but I do them very seriously. Number one, silly
Yeah.
played serious is my favorite type of humor. But
Dig it.
yeah, like I play her very, very seriously because like that is that kind of isolation that I was trying to go for.
And
Yeah.
that character still has a lot to learn about herself.
She do.
Not
She
that I would
really
know
do.
anything about that.
So that's my answer. David, we've really gone long now. David, characters that you play, you do new stuff pretty much all the time.
Well, actually, no. I do
Oh.
old stuff pretty much all the time.
That's fair.
A very long time ago, I came up with like a couple of different character archetypes. So like the adorable little squishy thing that throws fireballs, and then like the sort of like Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon, but is a warrior. It's like, I'm too old for this shit. Why am I being dragged back in? And then like an idealist, and then a very, very, very deep cut from Star Trek. There is an episode in the original Star Trek where there is a spirit going from person to person and then taking over their bodies and using the body to kill people, and they eventually trap it. And he has a big old cow because he's like, how dare you, I've been killing your people for thousands of years. And then he rattles off a list of names, including Jack the Ripper. And so I just took the other names for my evil characters. And so I have like good characters and I have evil characters, and all my evil characters are variations on that Star Trek evil entity.
And my himbo bard got to go on an adventure with him in the Feywild.
Yes, there was a collection of teeth. That was a good time.
The spooky continues.
Right.
But yeah, that's we've gone an hour now, so I want to wrap it
Right.
up because everyone.
I just can't believe it's over.
I made a couple people cry, including myself, so we might need some naps here.
Bless.
Who
Thank
lost
you.
the bet?
David said Sophie would cry, no question.
And that people put money on it.
Whoa.
Who lost the bet?
I mean, listen. Just take your burritos and go.
I still think that it was like divine intervention with that
Yep.
internet outage.
Yep.
Like Sophie was praying to some god and was just like, "Help me out here."
I firmly do not believe in God, so
Not even the
Well-
spaghetti one.
not even the spaghetti one. So sorry. Despite
I mean,
Kay's
he's a good dude.
incredible puns, no.
It is easier for lasagna noodle to pass through the holes of a colander than for a rich man to enter the beer volcano.
Stop. Stop.
I love it. I'm here for the puns.
I
There's
destroy
so much.
David all
There's
the
so
time.
much more that you guys have not encountered, and it's devastating every time.
I was particularly proud of when we did funeral rites and I was talking about how he passed over the lasagna bridge.
Oh yeah, I had to get up and walk away.
The dog.
God damn it.
But that is a different campaign. This one is done for now. We will hopefully see these characters again. I hope I see you all again. You are all welcome at my table
As vampires.
anytime.
Yeah, as vampires.
Vampire.
We're coming back as vampires. And also, you know, your big
Look
old
at Jen
hint
perked up.
of what the Miss Cat's doing. So
I know that. Did that surprise anyone? Was anyone like,
No, I saw that coming.
Good.
I was like, it's too good. It's too good to be true.
he had to be Lumen out there being mischievous? At least like he's chaotic, right? Like
wonder
not
how
looking to destroy
differently-
everything.
How differently it'll go down if some of the same party returns. And it's like, come on, Cat. Like, come on.
Rosam's just like, well, I guess I should be glad I didn't take the deal.
Well, thank you for letting me tell this story and put your characters through hell, and I hope I made it worth your while. And
It was
I can't wait to
awesome.
play with you all again.
Thank you so much for having us.
We love you so much, Kay.
I love
Keep it
y'all.
together, Jen.
Yeah, I'm trying.
We're gonna hang up before Jen loses it again. Thank you all for
Okay.
watching. I so enjoyed this game. Thank you for all your support, and thank you for all your creativity. And we'll see you next time. And thank you again for the art cozy.
Yes, thank you.
Yay!